the Lord has given me in this season to show up the way I've been showing up. So if you're happy, let me see some thumbs up. Let me see some hearts. Let me see some comments. Are you learning from this? Is this helping you? Please let me know. Is this helping you? Yeah? So today we want to talk about, what does it mean to say I do? What does it mean to say I do? A lot of us, we have been, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, if you're married already, you know that something led you to say I do. Something led you to say I do. But what did it take for you to say I do? It was love. It was intimacy. It was transparency. You met a guy, you fell in love. You looked at him and you thought, wow, this guy is different than all the other ones I've dated. You know what? Maybe I should just say I do. It would be nice if I married this guy, you know? So you go through, you go through this situation and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I can marry this person. I wish I can marry this girl. I wish I can marry this guy. And then you end up saying, I do. I'm here to explain to you, what does it mean to say I do? Because many of us, we say I do based on the first part. We know it takes more than just love to be married and stay married. Love can get you married. What about the intimacy part? What about the transparency part? That's where the challenge is. That's truly where the challenge is. So I want to quickly go through, what does it mean to say I do? We'll talk about it. And then once we talk about it, you will see where perhaps you're missing it, where perhaps you've made a mistake and you didn't know it was a mistake, but now we're here. So what are you going to do about it? And that's the key. What are you going to do about the mistake that you're recognizing, the things that you are encountering in your marriage that need to change? All right. All of us know about commitment. You think about commitment, you think, I have to be committed to be married. I have to be committed to be with this person. I have to be committed. But commitment goes beyond just saying I do. Commitment goes beyond just saying I do. When you say I do is based on the conditions I'm looking at right now. I'm saying I do. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're saying I do based on the conditions, the here and the now. But you cannot use the here and the now as a reason or the only reason why you are saying I do to someone that you care for. So I want us to quickly dive in and read through the vows. So the vow, when you read the vow, this is what it says, not the entire vow, but it says that for better or for worse, right? For better or worse, for richer or poorer, sickness and in health, to love and to cherish. And yesterday I began to talk a little bit about that. So I want to break down, what does it really mean when you say these words? So I do is a solemn vow. We know that, to marry somebody. In the eyes of the public, you're making a declaration of your love, and you're pronouncing, you're committing to this person. You're saying, till death do us part. Now, you can say that if you believe that, but it's kind of like expected, because the vows have been like this for centuries. Some of us run our own vows, but the whole idea remains the same. We're committing to one another. So you're saying, I want to commit to you through good times and through bad times. I'm going to support you through thick and thin. I will love you unconditionally. To cherish, to love and cherish. Love, many of us, our love is conditional. But to love and cherish means that you are loving the person, you're caring for them unconditionally, with compassion, with care. Do you understand that? Compassion and with care. So you're making a lifelong commitment. It's not just, I'm going to test it out and see what happens. Because I'm doing this because I need you to understand what you're committed to. You didn't commit to good times. You didn't commit to, being rich, to wealth. You didn't commit to good things. You committed to the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what you're committed to. You're committing to their joy. You're committing to their sorrows. You're committing to their success, their failures. You're committing to being a team, to create a loving, stable environment that is also supportive. When you cherish somebody, you support them. So saying I do is a really big decision. It's a beautiful decision. It makes life worth living for some, but it's a big decision. You can't take it lightly. All right. So you're saying, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. I'm saying yes to all of their flaws, and I'm saying yes to all their good. I'm saying yes to love them through every situation that we encounter. That is what you're saying yes to. Let me read a scripture to you. I want you to hear this scripture. It's so powerful. In the book of Galatians chapter 6, verse 8 and 9, it says, for he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary. Let us not grow weary while doing good. For in due season we shall reap if we do not lose what? Heart. Galatians chapter 6. I tell a lot of married people, read Galatians. If you're struggling to really do what you're supposed to do, please read the book of Galatians, but specifically Galatians chapter 6. Let's not be weary. When you're weary, you get tired. This is the part you say, I'm so tired. I can't take this. This is too much. This is where you get weary. Your soul is just tired. Your body is beat. Your mind is like, I can't take one more thing. What does it mean to say I do? I do means I can't be tired of what is happening. I can't be weary. I can't be weary because the journey is so long that you can't already be tired by year 5. Some people are tired by year 1. They're tired. They're tired because of their children. They're tired because of the circumstance. They're tired because their spouse won't change. But you cannot be tired. That's what I'm here to tell you. You cannot be tired because what you signed up for was for the long haul. You didn't sign up for a trial. It's not test and trial. It's not a trial and error. This is not what you signed up for. But then you tell yourself, but this is such a long journey. I'm tired. What am I going to do? This is where you have to rely on the Lord. There is a place where you really can't do it by yourself. I talked about John chapter 2, where in John chapter 2, it talks about the miracle of marriage. And that's also in my book. If you read The Death and Resurrection of Marriage, it's also in that book, where in that book, I discuss how, in fact, my foreword was written by Prophet Manasseh, and he talks about how marriage was meant to be a miracle. And a lot of people miss it because they focus on the here and now. You marry the person because they're sweet. You marry the person because they're gentle, like he's a gentleman. You marry the person because they can cook. You focus on things that may or may not necessarily be important in the long haul. That's why yesterday I talked about the roles. Let me slow down. The roles and cultural expectations of men and women, right? So when you come in with the cultural expectation and you say, oh, this woman can cook, you marry her for her food. Then you find out as much as she can cook, she has no character of her own. She's just rude. Or that she's very impatient. There are people that have some massive anger issues. You find out she's too impatient for you. You can't handle it. So we don't look at the roles and expectations, things that we like now. Because here's the reality. If somebody doesn't know how to cook, and culturally speaking, they're not fit for marriage, guess what? You can teach them how to cook. They can learn how to cook, whether before marriage or after marriage. They can still learn. There are things that are not permanent. Yay, I have come. There are things that are not permanent when it comes to choosing a spouse. There are others that are very permanent. Like, what is the person's belief system? Those things are permanent. Your value system is what guides your behavior. What you have on the inside of you, that's what directs which way you go. The person's coping mechanisms. There are many people with no coping mechanisms. Many lack the ability to cope appropriately, to respond to stressful situations, to respond to bad situations. There are many who do not know how to cope. So when people ask me, what is the most important question to ask somebody you're getting? Watch for their coping mechanism. Don't even ask them. Because if I ask you, how do you cope with stress? I'm going to give you the book answer. When I encounter stress, you do what you do in an interview. I had an interview a couple of days ago, and the way I answered the question, you answered the question according to the way based on the role and what is expected, and and hopefully the skills that you talk about are skills that you carry. In my case, they were talking about leadership skills, which I already carry leadership skills. So I was able to answer it in a way that made sense to them, and also in a way that the company can see me as an asset. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you don't necessarily need to interview the person you're marrying. You need to watch them. You learn more from watching. That's why children learn better from modeling, observing and modeling. Because when children watch their parents, they get their answer. When they watch their parents, they know how to respond to emotional things. So if a child is throwing in tantrum, as a parent, your response is really what will make or break that child. Because if you deal with the response well, you respond appropriately, then that child learns to manage their emotions. Whew. There's so many children who don't know how to manage their emotions, who have become adults, who are married. Do you hear me? So many children who were not taught how to manage their emotions, they bottled up their emotions and ended up as adults. Now they're adults who cannot express themselves, adults that are running havoc in their homes, adults who just go off on their children, on their spouse, on everybody. The way you respond to that child is how the child is going to learn to manage their emotions. So when you overreact, okay, they spilled the milk. Okay, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, wipe the milk. Wipe the milk. That's all. If better yet, tell them go clean it. If you really must, tell them go clean it. But when you beat them for pouring milk, then there's a huge discrepancy, because you beat somebody for pouring milk. Now, when they don't pour milk and they go and break your chair, what are you going to do? This is where a lot of parents punish their children, and they hurt their children so bad. So it's a huge discrepancy. There was something I talked about here about anger, right? Your triggers. When your response is higher, much higher than the offense, right? You're triggered so high, more than the offense. There are deeper wounds. That's a quote that was posted on social media, thanks to my wonderful assistant. And but that quote says clearly that when there are deeper wounds, guess what? You're unable to respond appropriately. So you're beating a child for spilled milk. You're punishing them. You're putting them on timeout for things that you really shouldn't. Do you understand? So the magnitude of your response. Okay, I'll come here and talk about emotional response. I did a masterclass on it, so I'm going to come here and teach it.